Picture a mushroom in your head right now. I'm willing to bet you're imagining a bright red cap with those little white spots all over it, right? It's literally everywhere. It's the classic fairy tale toadstool, the power-up from your favorite video games, and even the default mushroom emoji on your phone. But do you know the true biological and medical story behind the world's most famous mushroom? Because behind all that pop culture fame is a seriously complex, and honestly, sometimes deadly, biological reality.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into a massive academic study all about the biology and the surprising medicinal properties of Amanita muscaria. We're going to take a super high-energy journey from the hidden ecology of forest floors all the way to some truly mind-bending pharmacological discoveries. It is a story about a profound paradox. How could one of nature's most notoriously toxic organisms actually hold the key to treating some of our most complex human diseases?
So, here is our roadmap for today. Number 1, the iconic fly agaric. Number 2, a hidden forest partnership. 3, the chemistry of toxicity. And finally, 4, surprising medical potential. All right, starting off with Section 1, the iconic fly agaric, more than a fairy tale.
Okay, let's dive right into this. To really grasp the science, we got to start with the macroscopic morphology of Amanita muscaria. Basically, its anatomy, because this sets the stage for all the crazy chemistry later. Right at the top, you've got that brightly colored cap, formerly called the pilus, which is covered in those persistent white warts. Just beneath that are the white, closely packed gills. That's where the spores happen. Moving down, we hit the cylindrical stipe, or the stem, which has this distinct little ring around it called the annulus. And finally, at the very base, there's this sac-like structure known as the vulva. Out in the wild, knowing all these specific diagnostic structures together is absolutely crucial for safe identification.
Moving right along to Section 2, a hidden forest partnership, life beneath the soil. Well, it turns out what we see above ground is just a tiny fraction of the whole story. To get how this species actually survives and thrives across temperate and boreal forests all over the world, we have to talk about ectomycorrhizal association. I know, it's a big word, but think of it as a highly sophisticated biological cooperative trade agreement. Amanita muscaria doesn't just sit passively in the dirt. It actively forms this symbiotic relationship with trees, like pines, birches, and spruces. The fungus acts like an extension of the tree's own roots, breaking down and pulling in essential mineral nutrients from the soil. And in exchange, the host tree pays the fungus in carbohydrates, basically sugars made through photosynthesis. It's a total win-win.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how that partnership actually works. The life cycle kicks off with spores germinating into a sprawling underground network of threads called hyphae, making up the mycelium. Notice how that mycelial network literally wraps around the roots of the host tree. This invisible underground web is an absolute game changer. It improves the soil, boosts plant growth, and keeps entire forest ecosystems stable. The classic mushroom we actually see popping up out of the ground, that's just the reproductive structure, the basidiocarp, which only shows up when the temperature and humidity are just perfectly right.
Okay, Section 3, the chemistry of toxicity, unpacking the paradox.
Let's pivot a bit. We just saw its beautiful ecological harmony, but now we've got to talk about this mushroom's incredibly dangerous reputation. You might have heard it called the fly agaric. Ever wonder where that name comes from? Well, extracts of this fungus literally paralyze and kill insects like the common housefly and certain mosquitoes. It's got serious natural insecticidal properties. It is an ultra-effective, natural bug killer, and trust me, the chemicals that do this to bugs have some really profound, intense effects on humans too.
So let's unpack the complex neurochemistry behind that toxicity. Amanita muscaria pumps out some highly potent bioactive compounds, most notably ibotenic acid and mucimol. Think of your nervous system kind of like a car with accelerators and brakes. Ibotenic acid hits the glutamatergic receptors. It's neuroexcitatory, meaning it essentially slams on the gas pedal, causing major agitation. But here's the wild part. As the mushroom dries out, that ibotenic acid converts into mucimol. And mucimol? It binds directly to GABA A receptors, acting like a massive brake on the central nervous system. It triggers inhibitory neurotransmission, basically forcing the brain's signals to just dramatically slow down.
Now, what's really fascinating about this clinical data is how it maps out the real-world consequences of those chemical reactions. Just look at how the dangers escalate as the dose goes up. At a low dose, the braking effect of muscimol might just cause some relaxation or mild euphoria, but bump that up to a moderate or high dose, you're looking at severe neurological impairments. We're talking visual distortion, sweating, intense hallucinations, and tremors. And at a very high dose, the toxicity is undeniable. It leads to profound delirium, total loss of coordination, convulsions, and even a serious risk of falling into a coma. And because wild mushrooms have completely unpredictable amounts of these chemicals, eating them is literally playing a dangerous game of physiological roulette.
Which brings us to Section 4, Surprising Medical Potential, Subverting Expectations.
Here is where we hit the ultimate paradox of Amanita muscaria. The experimental therapeutic applications coming out of this research are totally flipping our expectations upside down. Scientists are isolating these powerful compounds like mucimol and testing them in highly controlled, microdosed laboratory settings. And guys, the preliminary data is pretty astounding. In animal models for Alzheimer's disease, they're seeing actual neuroprotection and reduced neuronal loss. For Parkinson's, there's evidence of improved motor symptoms. It's even showing hepatoprotective action, which means it protects against liver inflammation, reducing cardiovascular risk indicators by 25% and showing real potential in stabilizing the nervous system for depression and decreasing cravings for alcohol dependence. It's wild! The exact same chemical that shuts the brain down in toxic doses might, in precise, microscopic amounts, actually protect it.
But let's pump the brakes for a second, because we have to be absolutely clear about balancing this info. The researchers call this the Amanita Paradox. On one side, you have a massive toxic risk. The safety margin is razor thin, the neurotoxicity is severe, and in nature, the compound levels are just way too variable. But on the flip side, the medical potential for neuroprotective and anti-inflammatory benefits is very, very real. The big takeaway here is that while this therapeutic potential is incredibly exciting, that high toxicity means it requires rigorous, highly clinical, scientific regulation. So to be completely clear, this is absolutely not a candidate for a DIY home remedy.
So the crucial point to remember is that the dose makes the poison. As exposure to mucimol and hypotenic acid creeps up, a biological system goes from experiencing subtle, potentially helpful modulation right off a cliff into hallucinations, extreme agitation, and ultimately severe neurotoxic seizures. Unlocking its medical potential is 100% dependent on keeping the dose meticulously controlled, keeping it miles away from that toxic threshold.
We started with a fairy tale mushroom, and we've somehow ended up at the bleeding edge of neuropharmacology. Amanita muscaria is a vital partner to our forests, a deadly trap for insects, a severe risk to humans, and, incredibly, a potential wellspring for future medicines. So as we look to the future, how will modern science safely unlock the cures hidden inside our most toxic folklore? It's a puzzle that researchers are working on right now, and the answers could honestly change medicine forever. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the science behind the world around you.